My sister was a big part of it. My sister's older, so she was a big support system in driving me to everything, because I had like physiotherapy and I had dance class and I had gymnastics and I had all to be additives to skating. So she was a huge part of my support system. But I've noticed now that having one child that is very successful with sport, and having my older sister who was also successful in sport, but not to the extent that I was training or was, that she got lost in the makeup of my sport and her importance in life, and her attention from my parents got a little lost, which I feel consequently guilty about now. But she was also playing sport though during that time. Like, she was also in hockey, softball, and soccer. So we were a very busy family and very sport orientated, but there was a loss to her because of that. Yeah, I went through a transition of coaching too during that time. So when I was about 12, 13, 14-ish, I was improving quite well because I had very poor coaching when I was smaller. So we had a new coach come in and she kind of refined my skills, and that's when I really started to blossom as an athlete, and started to win championships and started to win competitions and that sort of thing. So I was doing very well from probably about the age of 12 to 15. There's one jump in skating that really switches you from recreational to elite, and that's the double axel. And the double axel is the starting point to triples. So if you can get that, then you really start to progress to elite skating. And that took me 3 years of practicing to get. So I think that was a big part of the transition too, is that I probably fell 100 times a day for 3 years before I got this jump. So during that time, my performance, I guess, went up to a point until I got to the double axel, and then just fell apart. But as soon as I got it, it went back up again. But by that time I was exhausted from the constant having to get up and try again, having to get up and try again. So by that time I was just like, I'm done. I was done by then. I think that there's a need in everyone. I think that's something that's set in all of us, to need to be a part of a group and to socialize with people your age, to feel understood. And as soon as I would enter class, or as soon as I would be in school with people my age, I felt so misunderstood, because I came off as very stuck up, I think, because I was so focused on the tasks that I had to do and the job I had to do in sport, that I think I was very misunderstood with my peer group, and that was a turnoff to them. Plus I was doing very well in school, and I was never there. So I would come in and do very well in school. I was never there. I never talked to anyone. And it's hard for people at 13, 14, 15 to understand that, when their priority is going out on Friday night or having a boyfriend, or that's their priority, where mine was, how am I going to get to the gym at 4 a.m.? It was a huge disconnect, and I needed it so bad to have an understanding from my peer group, and it just, as long as I was in skating, it wasn't going to happen. Mine was quite different because I was in a small town, so I think that had a lot to do with it. Because I was in a small town, little victories were blown out of proportion. And I was very close with my coach because I would have to travel to bigger cities, so I'd travel with her. So my companion in life was my 50-year-old coach. And I had to do things, I remember signing my first check when I was 12, because I had to pay coaches. It was a very adult lifestyle. I had to fly by myself at 12 to different provinces and get on the bus at 12 in a different province and get to the rink by myself. Like, it was, at 12, that's very unlikely for children unless they're in a team sport where that's more likely. But it was a very adult world. I only conversed with coaches who were 50, 40, and never with my own age group. And if I did, it was always so awkward because I had no social skills from 11 to 17. I had no social skills. So when I did converse with them, it was painful. Yeah, I quit twice. The first time I quit, I was done. Physically, mentally, I was finished. And my coach and my mom begged me to go back. And I did. And I did for about 5 months. And then I quit again. And I was like, I tried for you guys, and no way you're going to do well in sport when you're doing it for someone else. And I understand that now. But I tried for them, and I quit again. So the first time, I think it was just a gradual thing, and I got off my practice at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I told my mom, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't do this anymore. I was so exhausted. And then they asked me to come back, and I came back and I tried one last time. And the point that switched it was I went to a party with some of my work friends. I worked at Starbucks at the time, and I went to a party with some of the friends that were my age. And I woke up that night, I said, I'm quitting tomorrow. That's it. And I went to my coach the next morning, and I said, I'm done. I think the demand of the training, because I was training 60 hours a week at the age of 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So that demand on me was getting too much. With the contribution of figure skating is it's a sport of looks. You being thin is so important, and I'm not a thin person. I have a very athletic build. I'm very muscular, and that was frowned upon. So I wasn't eating. I was bulimic, and I was training 60 hours a week and not eating. So my body was it was dying. Like, my mind was dying, my body was dying. I couldn't do it. I'm surprised now, looking back, that I did it for as long as I did. My mom, the first time I quit, my mom was furious. I was very, very mad at me. And I think partially because she was living a little bit through my sport and my success with that. So she was losing something too. So she was very upset. And my coach, I don't think they were disappointed. I think they were more hoping that, because I had so much talent, that they were excited to see what was going to happen. And then I said no. So maybe a little bit of disappointment, but they didn't really show that to me. But the second time, my coach 100% understood. She was like, yeah, you're done. Like, there's just nothing left. And I can't remember the second time I quit with my mom. Maybe I've blocked that out. I don't know. Yeah. The day I quit, it felt like the biggest burden was lifted off of my shoulders. The best way, I was with a psychologist at the time, a sports psychologist. She helped me quit. And she said it's like a marriage, it's like a divorce. I've never been through a divorce, but what I've heard is that it's sad in some sense, but it's a relief in another, because I was unhappy. So it was like a huge burden had been lifted off my shoulders, and I had all this free time. I had so much free time. But there was a part where I was missing, there's something that was missing, and I still feel that today. because I still am very competitive and I still am very active. And you need a passion in life, and that was my passion for so long, and I didn't have anything after because I didn't have hobbies outside of skating. So there was nothing for me to transition my passion into. So like that part I think was a little bit difficult, but I'm trying to find my way now, and it's like 7 years later, 6 years later, I've kind of found a little bit of a path with that, but that was almost weird. I didn't expect that.